Hey everyone, and welcome to Comedians on Technology, People and Drugs. As always, I'm your host, Sam Joseph, and today we're very lucky to have the comedian Oli Riordan on the podcast. Hey, Ollie, it's really great to have you with us. Thanks so much for sharing your time. Now, you're a very funny person. Yeah, I'd love to hear about your comedy origin story.
Uh, Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. I My input, like my intro to comedy, came sort of very early on. I think the first comedy that I saw was it was a it was one of those free DVDs that you get with or that you used to get with the Daily Mail
Oh yeah.
that my grandma picked up. It was Jasper Carrot's 24 Karat Gold.
Oh yeah.
Um, and it was a collection of his best material in one show. And I
Right.
think I watched that on repeat from the age of about six. And I obviously I think that at that age, if I had seen stand up before then, I wouldn't have like
Yeah.
recognized it. But
Mm.
that's what really sticks out as seeing something and being like, wow, that's that's something that's an incredible thing that he's doing.
Mm.
It
Mm.
wasn't even that I looked at him and thought, I want to stand on stage
No.
and do what he's doing.
No.
I think the initial thought was, wow, he makes me laugh and he makes other people laugh. And I really like that.
Mm.
Um, and I I've spoken often about it with my mum. The fact that she did not, shall we say, mollycoddle me
No.
in terms of I was trying to tell jokes from quite sort of from that point,
Oh yeah.
and she was not the sort of person. She isn't the sort of person to laugh at something that she doesn't find funny.
Okay.
So it was very much a okay. That has the rhythm of a joke,
Hmm.
um, but yeah. So I suppose that was a sort of that was the first thing that made me go, okay, I've got to up my game here. Um, uh, but what it did do was she went to school with a comedian, Joanna Neary,
Okay.
and they're still in contact now. And she, my mum contacted her and basically said, my son keeps on trying to write jokes, he keeps on trying to make us laugh. He isn't very good at it. What should he do?
Mm.
And she basically said, get him a notebook and tell him to write everything down.
Right. Right.
Everything that he finds funny, get him to write it down.
Right.
And so from about the age of sort of before I was 10, I was writing down the things that I found funny.
Hmm.
Um, and so as it stands, I've got a pile of notebooks um, with me at all times, but also just like I'd say let's say about a foot high. Um,
Oh yeah.
uh, Actually, I didn't plan this, but I have you know notebooks with me at
Right.
all
Right.
at all times,
Yes.
which are just filled, most of it full of crap. Um, uh, just I think this one I started writing when I started university,
Right.
um, and just one thing taken like randomly says garden table sketch, and I have no idea what that means.
Right.
Um, but clearly there was something that made me go, yeah. So I've just got a pile of notebooks, written from the age of 7,
Wow.
um, and my sort of I, I was watching stand up religiously, um,
Right.
and watching comedy as well, and I think my comedic sensibilities can be traced very crucially to sort of like that early years because I was raised by my grandparents,
Oh yeah.
and the things that they wanted, the comedy that they watched,
Yes.
are sort of like the cultural comedic touchstones that I have. I think are perhaps not the same as most people my age.
Right. Right.
So, uh, open all hours, keeping up appearances,
Yes.
um, uh, porridge,
Yes.
the good life, all those things which
Right.
I would consider. I think keeping up appearances is one of the best sitcoms ever made,
Uh,
um, and it's but also the comedians that they enjoyed. So if I was to look at like I suppose my sort of inspirations, Dave Allen would be
right.
a big one,
Yes.
um, which I think may not come as a massive surprise.
Uh,
Um, having seen my stuff, um, and yeah, it wasn't until I got to university that I knew that I wanted to get on stage. I
right.
knew that I'd done some acting
Hmm.
in school plays, and I knew that I loved doing that. But I was just terrified of going on stage
Right.
and with my own material.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I think I was in my I think it was second for the first like 2 years of university. I had been friends with a comedian who was part of the University Comedy Society.
Right.
And for about 2 years, we'd sat in philosophy lectures and I would write down ideas and give them
Mm.
to
Right.
him, for him to then sort of say on stage.
Uh-huh.
Um, and eventually, so very kindly, he said, "You've got to stop doing this.
Oh yeah.
You've got to stop. You stop giving me your jokes. Get on
Right.
stage and do them because sometimes they're the best. They're the ones that do best.
Ah.
Um, not always, but on occasion. So yeah, he. I didn't actually do it myself. He organised my first gig for me
Wow.
and sort of said, "You're doing this."
Right.
Um, uh, and yeah, I did my first gig. It was preceded by so he said he'd signed me up for in very inverted commas a comedy course,
Right.
um, but a comedy course which wasn't really it was a university one and it wasn't one that sort of gave us any input as much as it was essentially writing rooms
Okay.
that we did once a week
Right.
to basically say, look, this is going to be your first time standing in front of people that you don't know telling
Yeah.
jokes.
Mm.
And we're doing this so that it's not so that the first time isn't just you're in a pub,
Yes.
um,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
uh, uh, and then I must have impressed the guy that was like doing the guy that taught us sort
Yeah.
of us was a guy called I'm blank. I can't remember his name now. This is a while ago.
Sure.
Um, and yeah, he introduced me for our sort of graduation gig at university. Um, and he, I vividly remember him introducing me as this is someone who I think could go very far.
Ah.
Um, um, and so I remember exactly what the first thing that I said, the first line that I said that got a laugh of me ever doing stand up was no pressure then.
Right.
Um, and my my opener on that night is one that I still use,
Oh yeah.
um, uh, which I don't really like anymore, but
Mm.
because I've used it so often now that I don't really find it funny.
Right.
Um, but it sort of, at least for the time, it summed me up quite well, which
Right.
was. I can see a few of you looking at me thinking, are you gay or are you posh? The answer is a bit of both.
Right.
Um, and yeah, so I did my first gig and then I did another gig, I think the week after.
Yeah.
And it was one of those really, it was in the Halfpenny Bridge pub
Right.
um, in Dublin. And
Mm.
it, it was one of those, every now and then a gig will sort of have a small prize that they give
Yeah.
to whoever does who the audience deems has done the best. But it
Yeah.
wasn't like a competition. But I won that,
Mm.
um, and I got a rubber duck out of
Hmm.
that, which I still have.
Mm.
Um, yeah, and then stand up. I was gigging sort of sporadically,
Yeah.
and was enjoying it, but I think far too soon I got it into my head that I wanted to do this as a career. I
Okay.
wasn't seeing it as a hobby.
Hmm.
Um, I really wasn't really doing it for fun, and I was thinking about I was thinking far more about what I thought an audience would find funny
Okay.
and not what I actually found funny.
Hmm.
So to read back some of my early material, I look at it and I go, it's so overwritten and
Hmm.
it's so route one. Um,
Hmm.
and yeah, just a lot of it. I just look at it and go, why? That's you don't find that funny.
Hmm.
Um, and you don't find those kinds of things funny. Um, and so I yeah, I mean Dublin was a great place to
Hmm.
start doing stand up.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
it was it's very different from London, very
Hmm.
different from the UK in general, I think.
Right.
There's no bringer gigs, or at least there weren't when I started out.
Right.
7 minutes was the minimum
Oh,
gig
okay.
time. Um, yeah, and yeah, in my first year of doing stand up, I entered the Bray Comedy Festival's Best New Act
Hmm.
competition and got through to the semi-finals.
Mm.
Um, uh, and was beaten in my heat, or beaten in that one by the person who went on to win it.
Mm. Mm.
He's a very funny man called Sean Begley.
Uh-huh.
Um, but actually, it was a very I will say it was a very tough group. There was
Right.
also an Irish comedian called Blahin de Burka,
Uh-huh.
who's phenomenal,
Mm.
and she's just gone from strength to strength. So I felt like I was in good company
Right.
anyway.
Uh-huh.
Um, and yeah, I think 2 years later, I'd sort of been gigging very sporadically, because organization is not my strong suit.
Okay.
Um, and this notion of always having a gig in the calendar wasn't how I was thinking about it. It was very
Right.
much, oh, I've booked a gig, great, I'll do that gig and then I'll book another one. It
Right.
wasn't, I need to be doing, in order for this to work, I need to be doing this consistently.
Right.
Um, and then 2018, I entered Dublin's Next Stop Comic,
Yeah.
um, and uh, was runner up in that, um,
Mm.
which I think I was the most surprised about. Um,
Uh-huh.
in that, I remember sort of hearing my name. I was sort of sat at the back with my head in my hands, sort of going, right,
Uh-huh.
well, that went all right, I think.
Uh-huh.
It was also the first time that my partner at the time was seeing me do stand up.
Right.
That was the first the very first time that she saw me do stand up was in
Mhm.
this competition. Um, and she did come up to me afterwards and said, "Thank God you're good. It would be horrible to have to lie." Um, and then I moved back to London. Um, at this point, I dropped out of university
Oh yeah.
for various sort of health reasons, but also because in my head, I was thinking, right, well, I want to try and do stand up
Right.
properly. Um, and yeah, I did some really cool gigs actually in Ireland.
Mm.
Performed at a festival with a group called the Comedy Collective, which was really just a fantastic group of people. So if I can sort of name some people in the Irish scene, so Ian Lynham,
Uh-huh.
uh, Tilly Lyons, Bronya Blumenthal, Láithín again was there.
Uh-huh.
Uh, Ali O'Rourke, uh, Liam Farrell, like some really, really fantastic comedians
Mhm.
uh, performed at this festival, which was a folk festival. Um, and it absolutely tipped it down for the
Right.
entire, for the entire 2 days. I didn't stay over because festivals have never really been my thing.
No.
Um, and so when I got there, a lot of the people were um, sort of sodden, and I
Yeah.
was bone dry. But still, in the I'd say half an hour to an hour that I was like waiting to go on stage,
Mm.
did get absolutely soaked. So all the photos of me that exist at that festival are just my
Mm.
hair stuck to my head. Um, and yeah, folk festival where, shall we say, I'd say a majority of the crowd, it was a completely uncovered audience, so
Oh, really?
they were getting rained on for the
Right.
entirety of it.
Yeah.
Um, and uh, yeah, so I think it was like the third day of this festival, and
Yeah.
there were definitely some people who had been high for most of it.
Hmm.
And it's the first time that I've ever seen someone try to dance to stand up. Um, quite successfully, I
Mm.
would say. Um, but I honestly I have very few memories
Mm.
of that gig, and it's only since that Ian I've spoken to and sort of said someone had to go on and die first, and I was like I don't remember dying. I barely remember the gig if I'm honest, but it must have gone so badly that my brain just went, I'm just going to expunge that information
Yeah.
for you, do you a
Back that out.
solid. Um, uh, yeah, performed at the Roisin Dove in Galway, supporting Tanya Lee Davies, who's an American comedian.
Hmm.
That was really cool. She's really lovely. Um, uh, yeah, and then I moved back to London, and with the sort of idea that London was the place to be for stand-up comedy,
Right.
and then COVID happened,
Mm.
and if I had if I'd been on the scene a little longer and I'd actually done some gigs,
Right.
then perhaps I would have had more connections
Hmm.
in order to sort of say, "Oh, I know these people and they're doing gigs," and that's really cool.
Mm.
Um, uh, as it was, um, I didn't know anyone, so I didn't do any gigs
Mm.
well, I think I did two or three online gigs, which I really didn't like.
Mm.
Um, I really need to see the audience properly in front of me.
Yeah.
And there are a few gigs I did where the MC said, right, what we're going to do is we're going to mute the audience so that it doesn't interfere
Right.
with anything. And so I'm just like going, okay, so I'm going to be performing to silence,
Yeah.
is what you're suggesting, um, which did not do my confidence any favors.
Mm.
And yeah, yeah, COVID. So didn't do any stand up for the majority of COVID,
Hmm.
um, which was sort of tough in its own way.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, went back when COVID ended. I went back to uni, um, finished my degree, and then started doing stand up again.
Hmm.
Um, Actually, I think when the bar when sort of like clubs started opening again is
Hmm.
where we first met.
Yes.
Because it was Christmas. Um,
Yeah, 2021.
mm,
And just give me a sec. I mean, I've kind of been worried that the sound of the traffic outside will be interfering with your very interesting story. And I tried to like sort of gently close the blinds, and I've managed to get the blinds trapped in the window, and now making it very. So let's have a little bit of noise while I just close these windows now properly without trapping the blinds in the windows, and then we can just without interruption. Yes, sorry, we were saying yeah. So when we first met was Comedy in Your Eye, December 2021, just after COVID, really. I mean, that was my first ever gig after the comedy course I did. Where the comedy course final showcase, everybody had been wearing masks because we were still under COVID regulations.
well, it was a fun gig. I remember really enjoying that gig.
Mm.
And it was also a gig where I got COVID.
Oh, did you?
Um, yeah, it was the first one. And it was the week before Christmas, wasn't it?
It was, yes.
And so I had to self-isolate.
Oh God.
So my family lives up near Manchester,
Mm.
and I sort of had to call them a few days later and say I'm not going to be able to make
What
it.
a pain.
Um, so yeah, I mean, fun gig, but
Yeah, the price we pay. The price we pay.
yeah,
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
there
I
was
mean,
a
go on.
yeah. No, please.
Well, I mean, so many different things I was gonna touch on. Like, but you were also, you're away with the story, which is a fantastic story. I mean, I'm going right back to the free DVD that you got. I mean, I remember watching Jasper Carrot growing up, and I mean, I was kind of addicted to television growing up. I also The Good Life, Porridge, Open All Hours. I would just watch absolutely anything and everything. Just I was sort of glued to the television. I mean, and I think at the time I don't even really get a sense of stand up. I remember Dave Allen. I mean, I remember really enjoying Dave Allen and even retelling his jokes to my friends occasionally. And I'm also slightly jealous of the, um, sort of you. It's like when you were saying that when you first saw Jasper Carrot that you didn't like say, oh, I want to be on stage, but that you were already into that joke creation thing, and it's your mother's friend Joanna Neary suggesting notebooks, and so you sort of writing all the stuff down in the notebooks. And I'd love to be able to say, oh yes, I was busy kind of trying to come up with jokes when I was young, but I wasn't. I was just watching more TV. It was like that was for me that I mean, if there was stand-up on TV, fantastic. It was whatever there was on TV. So I mean, that's great to hear. I mean, having caught the comedy bug, I am now writing continuously. I mean, that seems to be a sort of a symptom of the comedy virus. I would say that one is sort of constantly doing that. Yeah, yeah. And then because you're talking about terrified of going on stage and your own material, maybe we'll come back to that. Yeah, but that's it's interesting to hear how you've kind of it very much sounds like comedy's part of your blood, whereas I'm a bit of a Johnny come lately, really. You've been in the game from the beginning.
I suppose it's I, the the sort of weird training that I've had is that my my mum and my stepdad are very, very funny people.
Oh, really?
in quite different ways.
Right.
Um, my stepdad tells absolutely fantastic
Mm.
stories, and he has lived an incredible life. But there are still some things where I just go, that can't be true. Like
Mm.
that can't have happened to you. Um, but I sort of do believe it as well.
Sure.
But it's you know going on stage, himself going on stage to a folk festival himself um, in his sort of like early 20s as a
Mm.
violinist,
Hmm.
and just sort of saying, I bet these this audience is so sort of away with it
Yes.
that they'll applaud anything.
Okay.
And his friend saying, okay, then do something ridiculous, go out on stage hopping and doing fake Shakespeare.
Uh-huh.
And he goes, right, okay, I'll do that. And so goes up on stage hopping and watching an audience go, wow, deep. Um, uh, and so there was sort of like really getting a sense of like how to tell a story and how to make it entertaining.
Mm.
But also something that he did was any pause that you leave in a sentence, he will fill.
Okay.
So it taught me that if I have to, whatever I'm going to say, I have
Mm.
to know exactly what I'm going to say at the beginning of the sentence so that I can get through it without a gap,
Right.
which is
Right.
something that I think I'm slipping on. Um, or to just speak quickly.
Right.
And my mum just has the most sort of really bizarre sense of humor, very offbeat
Oh, yeah.
um, sense of humor, which is potentially why she didn't find me very funny
Right.
as a child. uh,
Uh-huh.
uh, but it was, yeah, so that's sort of like, I wanted to be good. I wanted to be good at making people laugh in
Mm.
general, not just at stand up.
Sure.
And then um, I I would say that if I had, yeah, so Dave Allen was a big sort of inspiration
Yeah.
for the material that I was doing because I grew up in a sort of quite religious household.
Okay.
And so to see someone making jokes about religion and the church
Yes.
and sort of getting away with it, as it were,
Yes.
um, sort of I'd say did quite inspire me
Sure.
quite a bit. But that style of stand up, I don't think is too similar to me. Um, I'd say Dave Gorman would be a bigger inspiration in terms of
Right.
you're on stage and you're talking about something really sort of fairly obscure, but you're
Right.
making people interested in it, and then you're making it funny.
Right.
Um, but then if I'm talking about sort of long form shows,
Uh-huh.
the things that I want to do are Daniel Kitson, like the
Right.
things that Daniel Kitson does.
Okay.
Um, uh, so those would be sort of my three, like I
Big.
suppose, touchstones, cornerstones
Mm.
um, of my brain, my comedic brain. Um, and then just whatever I was reading at the time or watching at the time.
Sure.
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yeah.
That's a very key one for me. There's I still find myself quoting that even inadvertently. And Red Dwarf,
Yeah.
um, all those kinds of things.
Yeah, well, those are definitely big favorites of mine. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, my father used to read to me, and he would just laugh hysterically while he was reading it. I'm not sure I actually understood, and this is like when I was like 7 or 8. I'm not sure that I necessarily understood a lot of the jokes, but he was laughing so much, I was sort of joining in, and it's yeah, yeah, and a Red Dwarf as well. I mean, Brilliant, brilliant stuff.
My stepdad was a worked at the BBC for most of his life,
Oh, really?
and he worked in radio. I think maybe not at the beginning, but he worked. He was a Foley artist for a bit,
Oh, wow.
and one of his claims to fame is the very first broadcast of the first episode of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yeah.
He's the person that pressed play.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Um,
Extraordinary. Yeah, yeah. It's a fascinating story. I'm tempted to go back to some things you were saying about your earlier material, that it was sort of overwritten. I mean, you kind of came into um, the process of you were writing for your comedian friend, and he ended up saying, right, you need to start telling these jokes on stage. And I'm also envious because I mean, I think I always wanted like attention on me, and I very much enjoyed acting. And when I went to Edinburgh University, I like for the first year, I did like 13 plays. I just any chance to get on stage, and I hadn't really understood what stand up was. I just thought that was people who were naturally funny talking about things. I had no concept of preparation of material. It just didn't occur to me. And I I had there were people. I started getting involved in improv, and there were friends, and I actually sort of briefly ran a comedy gig where I was the MC, and I've probably told this story before, but I just you know would kind of get up and say things that, and while my friends who I think had perhaps prepared some material were getting laughs. Myself as the MC, as I tried to tell, like I think I tried to repeat a Rick Duckerman joke that I'd heard in America, and well, this and that, and I got absolutely nothing, and it was such an unpleasant experience that it put me off stand up for 30 years. I was
mm,
just like, oh, I guess this is only for special genius people who are like, they have this incredible wit in the moment. But yeah, I guess you'd from the beginning, from sort of your mother and your mother's friend, you had this idea that it was about preparing something and then taking that prepared thing on stage. That was sort of a natural assumption for
yeah,
you.
yeah. I've never really thought about it like that. It wasn't. Yeah, I never really had any concept of it being something that wasn't worked on.
Hmm.
Um, uh, no, yeah, I've never really thought about it that way. Yeah, I suppose it does stand me in quite good stead. Um, more so than I thought it did. Yeah, I imagine it must be quite a troubling thing to go on stage for the first time and die.
Hmm.
Um, I so I I feel like I need to preface this because my something that I find very, very funny is
Hmm.
being incredibly arrogant about
Yeah.
my own ability,
Right.
um, which I'm now thinking this isn't going to come across over podcast
Uh-huh.
but audio. Because what I was going to say there was because I've never died ever, so uh, and yeah, I
There you
just
go.
I feel like I need to sort of say to anyone that might listen, I have died. I've died many times. I died last week,
Right.
um, and that it was a horrific experience. Um, and it's yeah, easy. It gets. I suppose it sort of gets easier to deal with. Um, I sort of came off stage going, well, I'm confident in my material that that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, um,
No, but I think it was an interesting. I mean, I certainly had in my first 100 gigs, I had a number of deaths that were quite unpleasant experiences. I mean, in fact, that first gig that we were talking about, the comedy in your eye. So that was the first proper open mic pub gig that I'd ever done. As it we'd done this showcase for the comedy course that I'd done, and my material, my 5 minutes of material, had got a number of laughs. It had been quite well received, but of course, it was an audience full of friends and relatives, not just of me, but friends and relatives of all the other, 12 people on the course. And, with the MC introducing and saying, right, these guys have just been working on them. Come on, make sure you laugh or this, that, and the other. But it gave me enough confidence for the first time ever. For years, I carried this, feeling of maybe one day I will try this comedy thing again. I was so scared of it, but I wanted to, I kind of the allure of it. It was something I wanted to be able to do. But so yeah, that comedy course gave me the confidence to go and try that thing. And I don't know, I think I got almost zero laughs in that, my first set that you saw, except I got laughs from pointing out that I didn't get laughs.
Mm.
If I recall, but it was quite a punishing. It was quite a shock that this material that I'd done and had worked somewhere else was now not working in this current room, and I was getting uncomfortable silences. Um,
Well, I do remember. I don't remember the specifics of your set,
sure.
but I do remember seeing sort of being quite pleased to see someone on stage doing something different.
Which you said to
Um,
me afterwards in the break, which was lovely, and I really appreciated. Yeah.
um, and yeah, it's a real. And the thing is, at that time, I hadn't. I mean, to sort of cut quite a long story short, I quit stand up for 2 years because I had such a horrific experience on stage.
Did you?
Um, yeah, so I
And that
not
was post COVID, is that right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I yeah, due to um a particular MC who I won't name, not
Okay.
because of any sort of like basically because I don't want him and his gig to get any mentions
Okay.
ever. So
Right.
it's a
You,
so
you you can tell me after,
yeah.
but yeah, okay. So,
Um,
but you had a very difficult experience at a particular, and was this an open mic gig or this was a
it was
bigger?
a competition.
Oh,
It was
okay,
a yeah, it was a comedy competition run by a sort of fairly well known sort of open mic night.
okay,
Uh, that basically every open mic comic in London does.
okay. I think well,
Um,
there's about three or four of those, and I know. Yeah. So, but we're talking about a gong show, aren't we?
no, not quite. No,
Okay.
no. This was. I can tell you exactly what happened. I had been. There are a number of sort of mitigating factors,
Yeah.
or sort of. There are a number of factors that led to it. Partially, I just started a higher dose of my ADHD medication,
Okay.
um, and I something that doesn't get spoken about a lot is that ADHD medication, stimulants in specific, work
Right.
on the paradoxical stimulant effect, which is how essentially stimulants sort of seem to work differently for people with ADHD than people who don't have ADHD, and
Right.
that stimulants like caffeine,
Hmm.
um, uh, amphetamines,
Yeah.
rather than speeding people up, make them sort of calm down.
Okay.
Um, and I had been put up to a new dose, which was too much.
Okay.
And essentially, something that I hadn't been told was that if you're on too high a dose of stimulants, it basically makes your ADHD faster.
Okay.
Um, so I'd gone into this competition. I mean, first of all, I don't really like comedy competitions as
No,
a concept.
me neither.
Um, and but it's one of those things where I accept them as a part of the industry that
Uh-huh.
if you want to get sort of notice that you have to
Mm.
do well in them.
Mm.
So I'd gone into this competition thinking I'm not going to prepare a set. I'm just going to go up and do whatever comes to mind.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
and as it was, I about 5 minutes before I was meant to go on, I sort of had a bit of a anxiety attack
Mm.
and decided, okay, I can't do that. I need to write down what I'm
Okay.
going to do. So I wrote down my set on my hand with a very shaky hand. Went on stage and I'd say did all right. I wouldn't say I was dying,
No.
but I wasn't doing well
Yeah.
for about 3 minutes, and then I remember exactly what happened. I looked at my hand and I said, "What does that say?"
Uh-huh.
At which point, the MC came on stage with a wet wipe and wiped the rest of my set off my hand
Oh, really?
and said, "You're better than this. I'm giving you another 5 minutes. Start again."
Right.
And I would rather he just let me die,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
because it was so embarrassing, and
Yeah.
so it was just sort of like, and people came up to me, other comics came up to me afterwards and said, "I cannot believe he did that."
Yes.
I just got Were just like, I can't believe. The thing is, I did pull the rest of the gig. I pulled the rest of the set out the bag at that point, because he had sort of removed
The
that
crutch.
stumbling block, and there was a part of me, which is a major part of me, which sort of says, "All right, fuck you. I'm
Yeah.
going to do this,
Yeah.
and I'm going to do. I'll show you,"
Mm, mm,
which is a I'd say a very large part of my personality,
mm-hmm,
um, and which is perhaps why I worked so hard to make my mum laugh when I was younger.
mm-hmm.
Um, and I, yeah, but I was booked in to do some more gigs with him, after that, with his club, with his
Yeah,
night, and I cancelled them immediately afterwards,
sure.
and then didn't do stand up for 2 years,
Right.
just because I was like, I can't do it. The thought of going on stage made me
Mm-hmm.
feel sick.
Yeah, it sounds
And
sort of traumatizing. Um, the Well, it's interesting because I've seen that happen to someone else, maybe by the same MC. That next five, just out of interest, that next 5 minutes where you were in that sort of FU kind of mood, those you got some laughs in that 5 minutes.
oh
How
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that went well.
right? But
That did go well. Yeah.
okay, interesting. Um,
Um,
but then that was not enough to salve that sensation of the earlier kind of three and the person getting on stage and interfering with your process.
yeah. Um, and look, it is something that I would never. I haven't written my set on my hand since.
Mm, mm.
Um, uh, I'm not opposed to taking a notebook on stage.
Yeah.
I think that's fine, especially if you're trying out new stuff. But I would not. I'm not so petty as to say that he wasn't right,
Hmm.
that I wasn't dying, and that it would have been better if I hadn't gone on stage with
The,
a very hastily written set on my hand.
yeah.
But the way that he reacted to that
Yeah.
completely destroyed me.
Mm.
Um, and but it's sort of, the thing is, I don't want to give him too much credit, but I sort of came back to stand up
Yeah.
in this last August, um, very much uh, reinvented myself and
Right.
started doing different material, all new
Yeah.
material.
Yeah.
Um, um, it's a very tough, it's a very tough position to be in, because I've essentially, I'm now on stage. Before I would go on stage and do, I was quite camp on stage, and I would do
Mm.
material mostly about being queer and sexuality in general and all that stuff.
Yeah.
The fact that I'd spent 10 years studying theology
Mm.
never came into it.
Right.
Um, and yeah, in August, I sort of went, no, I'm going to go on stage and I'm going to be completely myself.
Wonderful.
I'm not going to play a character.
Right.
Um, it's just going to be me, which has helped, because it means that if I then improvise on stage, I don't have to be thinking, well, what would this character of Oli Riordan say?
Right.
Um, I can just react as it comes to me.
Right. Right.
Um, and also it means that the material I'm doing I find interesting and I find funny.
Right.
Um, and I think it's much better because of it. Um, it's I did a gig a few years ago where my closer, which always worked, always got a great response.
Yeah.
Just one night stopped,
Okay.
and then from that one night, it never got anything.
Oh, really?
Um, and I really struggled to work out what it was until someone someone said, "We can tell that you don't find it funny.
Right.
Um,
Interesting.
you've lost
You're interested in
you,
it.
yeah." And that was sort of that was really interesting to me, and that was really sort of like, okay, I the point at which a joke stops being funny, that's when I've got to like do something else.
Interesting.
Um, because I think an audience can sense insincerity. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
um,
it's fascinating. The well, and it seems like there's an arc here from you were talking about, lots and lots of writing, early, very, very written material, then up to this point where you, we're thinking, right, I'm going to just make it up on the off the cuff, and then this break, and now you've reintegrated more of yourself into it. What's the process now as you're preparing for a gig? Like how much preparation and writing is going into it? How much off the cuffing are you doing?
I would say there's no difference in preparation apart from I used to be quite fastidious about what I was going to wear on stage because I
Okay,
needed everyone to see this particular character.
okay,
Very much how I presented myself was a big part of it, and I really started to resent that um, because I felt like I was dressing up in order to make my opener work.
okay.
I was dressing up in a way, that sort of "Are you gay or are you posh?" line.
Hmm. Hmm.
I had to dress in a way that would make an audience think think that, or for it to be conceivable that an audience might think that.
Yeah.
Um, and and now it's much more. Now every gig that I do, I got stuck in a rut of doing. Um, I've really got stuck in a rut of doing the same 5 minutes, the same 7 minutes,
Hmm. Hmm.
for ages, and never
Hmm.
trying anything new because I was just terrified of it not
Right,
working.
right,
And and now every gig that I do, I try to put a new bit
right,
into every set,
right.
um, as
And
much to try it out, um,
yeah,
also just to keep it interesting as well.
yeah. So
And I
then
give
go
sorry,
on.
well, I just give myself more space
Yeah,
now to improvise and to react to the audience. Yeah,
great. Yeah. And so you kind of it's maybe you've got like a reliable stuff at the beginning and the end, and you'll try out a new bit in the middle. Is that the kind of pattern?
yeah. I'd say there would be maybe two new jokes that
Yeah.
I'd put in
Mm,
um, into say a 5 minute set.
sure.
I would have the first I'd have the first 2 minutes and the last 1 minute
Mm,
sort of sorted, and then I'd give myself 3 minutes to play.
right.
Um, because and it's a very much a sort of formulated thing of I need to get the audience on side. That gives me
Mm,
then the freedom to to play around a bit,
yeah.
and then at the end,
Yeah. Close.
I've got my closer, um, and that seems to work every time. So uh, yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I go through. It's funny because I went through a period in the last. I mean, I've been gigging consistently since the time we first met. And at the time we first met, I was slightly in awe of yourself and the others who were going up and doing much better than me on that particular day. Um, but yeah, it was. I repeated that 5 minutes actually just a couple of times, and then like my third gig, I had to do 10 minutes. So I had like to write an extra five, and so I wrote that extra five, and then the next few gigs, and then some of them were five, so I just switched to that. And then I went through this process of the first year of like every 2 or 3 weeks, I would be doing a new five and like coming up with a new thing. Um, and then I kind of like there was like I got a best of it, and there was sort of a 9 month period where I just did the same thing over and over again, and I saw, oh yes, it kind of grows little bits each time, and it's and I had some really good gigs with that, but it still wouldn't work in every place. And then I've kind of come to this place now myself where I'm sort of inspired by Ross Noble and Rory Scovel of like just this idea of kind of what you were talking about when that one gig with that caused you to stop for 2 years of just being able to go up and do stuff in the moment. And I sort of see that as a kind of holy grail. I remember asking the it's Marcus Birdman who was teaching our comedy course, the first one we did, and I asked about, can you just go up with nothing? And he said, well, it's only a stand-up of Promethean ability could go up with nothing. And I sort of took that partly as a challenge. And yeah, I'm sort of wrestling though, like, because I do this thing, as I might mention to you, but which is this virtual reality thing where I do my comedy
Yeah.
booby trap and I take five thoughts. And so I'm always writing, but it's like a lot of it is premises and a little bit works out. And so effectively I kind of go up with five areas or premises. Sometimes they're like fully formed one-liners. But over the course of 2 weeks, I will have done, or a week, I will have done, a couple of hours on stage just talking through all of these things. And some of those things will have got laughs and I'll be interested enough them to say them again. And I'll select, like if I'm doing a 10-minute set, I will take a selection of those and I will just make a 10-minute set. And I don't have a regular opener or closer. I just go all in to use all the
Mm.
time on all new stuff. And I thought I'd got one set before Christmas that was a 10-minute one that had, a number of jokes with pullbacks and reveals that I thought this is pretty solid, and I had some really good sets with it. And then I used it at a gong show. I went to up the creek, which
Yeah.
like for my seventh time, or no, sixth time that I was there. And I'd never got past the 2 minutes, and I sort of thought, oh, I'm 3 years in now. Maybe this will get somewhere. But it just, I don't know. All of them got laughs, but they all got a kind of way at the end as well.
Yeah.
And I mean, the audiences are very variable there. But I've just like, partly through that experience, I almost don't want to do those ones again. And I'm kind of
Mm.
torn myself between, like, I've got some other bigger gigs coming up where I'm going to need to do a focus 10, and it's kind of like, what should I be doing? Should I be trying to pull and polish sets of things? I mean, I tend to go on stage, as you might have seen me, with these clipboards and just
Mm.
work from them just to have a few. And I'm kind of like should I be doubling down on polishing and sticking with the same set, or do I just go full on? Right, I'm going to be completely like, this is the thing, because what you're talking about here, you're talking about, you know, you're being you, and it's about you finding it funny and about how your closer that used to work stopped working. And I wonder, like for me, I get very bored of my saying the same things over and over again. I have this joke that I did recently that's got a lot of laughs in a lot of places to do with me injuring my foot and what have you. But so I kind of like, and a part of me can say, well, you could like develop that story more, but I'm already bored of talking about it. Do you know what I mean? And it's kind of like I
Yeah.
want to be on stage being as purely me as I can
Mm.
be. And I sense that there's the same desire for yourself. You want to be just perfectly you on stage, right?
Yeah. And I think it's one of those things where people talk about, the advice that you get from a lot of comedians, sort of very established comedians, is,
Mm,
or established artists in anything, is be yourself, be
right.
true to yourself. And
Yeah.
you don't really know what that means until you start doing it.
Mm,
Um, because, the sort of realizing that I was writing material that I did find funny, and I thought that will work on stage,
Mm.
but realizing that it was for an audience.
Hmm.
And I sort of had the realization of I'm going on stage and pretending, well, sort of like heightening
Mm.
my my campness, um, and then sort of having a thing of going, I'm not that camp.
Right.
I don't particularly find queer issues and sexuality interesting on an
Sure.
academic level,
Sure.
um, but I'm not. It's not my passion. I
Mm.
am a nerd that likes reading the Bible.
Mm.
That's that's the thing that I am, and I, to sort of, I suppose the thing that keeps it most fresh for me is that I really enjoy teaching, and I
Hmm.
really enjoy telling people um, about something that I've just learned,
Right.
and to watch an audience now, uh, sort of to watch them really, really listen
Mm.
and and to really go, huh, as well as laughing,
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and for them to have that sort of realization is, without sounding too aggrandizing, is quite fulfilling.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and it's something that never happened to me when I was doing when I started doing stand up. Was people would come up to me and say, oh, I really enjoyed that,
Hmm.
um, you know which people do, at the end of gigs anyway.
Mm.
But then people have since August have started coming up to me and being like, I never knew that
Ah.
about about the Bible. I never knew that
Yeah.
about Jesus's family.
Hmm. Hmm.
And people have come up to me and said, that wasn't just funny, that was really
Right.
interesting.
Yeah.
Um, and I find that far more rewarding,
Yeah.
um, than just, I don't know. A friend of mine, comedian George Robinson,
Uh-huh.
um, said said something sort of like quite flippantly, but I don't think he realized how much of a compliment it was, when he said, something that I really like about your stuff is that it always has a point.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's never just a laugh, like a line just thrown out there
Mm.
to get a cheap laugh. There's always something that you're trying to say,
Mm.
um, which I hadn't realized myself.
Mm.
Um, it wasn't something that I'd consciously tried to do. Um, and just on this subject of like improvisation,
Hmm.
I started doing an improv course,
Hmm.
um, a few weeks ago,
Hmm.
with the Free Association,
Hmm.
and it was absolutely just completely, um, mind opening.
Right.
It
Yeah.
just completely changed how I felt on stage,
Mm.
um, because it's so freeing.
Yeah.
It's so freeing to go on stage and not have any clue, to actively go on stage and think, I'm not going to prepare for this,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is the complete antithesis to everything that I've done
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
previously. And to go up and to still get laughs as well,
Yes.
um, and to sort of have that moment of going, oh, I'm funny even when I haven't planned to be,
Yes. And maybe,
is,
and sometimes you're funnier when you're not trying, and
yeah,
that's part of the trick, isn't it? Really, is
oh yeah,
yeah. It's really interesting what you're saying there. I mean, to one, the comment from George Robinson, which is, I mean, I think the comedy that in some ways, the comedy that I've enjoyed the most has a through line. Like I prefer, I mean, I love listening to comedy albums where it's like an hour, and you know, I mean, I still enjoy it like with a lot of the American ones where it's just like there's nothing connecting in everything, but it's like it's just like their funniest stuff on whatever topic, and that's
Yeah.
still fine. And I've kind of more come round to enjoying that. But I think, I certainly earlier on, I prefer something where I would be hearing the evolution of a person. I mean, I guess Michael Biglia is a good example of that. Although
Mm.
now, as I've listened to his podcast and other things and realized that, I'm almost slightly turned off by the level of polish because I'm now more excited about this, like you say, the free association, like in the moment. I mean, I've done that now a couple of times of going up to do a 10 at my own club with no preparation, and that there is, as you say, there's something incredibly freeing about it if you can get laughs. I mean, I think that the challenge is that that it can go either way, can't it? Because you can go up. I mean, I went up at Cuts Comedy on Thursday, and I'd done very unprepared random stuff. Like I've had four gigs there, and the first one went amazing, and the third one pretty amazing, and the second and the fourth have been. But you know what I mean? It's sort of
Mm.
I feel like I feel like there should be some there should be some maybe it's the same as achieving nirvana, but like or enlightenment, like losing the ego, where you can kind of go up unprepared and kill every time. Because I think that's the thing is I want to be totally free, and yet I also want to kill. But maybe I have to let go of the desire to kill before I can totally kill. Do you know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? It's a tricky
Yeah,
one.
absolutely. It's you must yeah, you must let go of earthly possessions.
Uh,
It's the I've heard Russell Howard and James Acaster talk about the fact that when they started doing stand up, they were just doing improv
right.
basically.
Yeah.
And James Acaster in particular has spoken about the fact that when he first went on stage and tried to and with something that he'd written,
Yeah.
it went really badly.
Mm-mm.
Um, and I think Russell Howard he got to the final he got to the final of So You Think You're Funny
Mm.
with no written material.
Right.
Um, and sort of said the apparently um, the advice that you're given is that in the final of So You Think You're Funny, you should do the first set that you did to get on it, or
Right.
in the first heat.
Uh-huh.
And he was there going, "Well, I can't do that because
I made it up on
I
the
didn't
spot.
have a set."
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So, um, but something that I find quite interesting about, you've got the as I understand it, a lot of like first hours of stand-up shows,
Uh-huh.
the first hour that people would do would be just you'd be going for a long time and you'd just put all of your funniest stuff into an
Yeah, yeah,
hour.
yeah. But yeah, show reel.
And then um, people started writing shows which had a point, which had
Mm.
a sort of narrative through line.
Right, sure.
And I think Daniel Kitson is one of those sort of like trailblazers
Mm-hmm.
in that form. Something I find quite interesting is that Russell Howard used to be his tour support,
Mm. Mm.
and Russell Howard has said um, that there's no better apprenticeship to have
Mm-hmm.
than under Daniel Kitson, and I completely believe that. I think anyone that knows me will have heard me quote him quite religiously,
Mm-hmm.
um, and sort of seeing or hearing his shows. That was the first time that I sort of went, "That's what I want to do."
Mm.
Is not to just go up on stage and say do an hour of short jokes,
Yes.
but to talk on a specific subject. So I've got the next 5 shows in my head that I want to write,
Uh-huh.
and the topics of them I've got them
Mm.
written down,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm constantly writing down like if I think of an interesting idea, I'll pop it into one of the 5 columns that most applicable
All right.
for that thing. Um, uh, and it's because I find that so much easier to do rather than this notion of sitting down and writing material and just going, right, I'm going to write about a topic, like,
Mm, mm.
going to the beach. I'm going to
Right,
write,
right,
try and write
right.
some material about going to the beach.
Mm,
I can't really do that, but what I can do is, I mean, for the material that I'm doing at the moment and for the show that I'm writing at the moment, is I can read. So it's about religion,
mm,
um,
mm.
and writing about. So what I am doing and what most of my sets is made up of is just me reading the Bible from start to finish
Right,
and coming up with material based on what I'm reading,
right.
which is majority of what you saw most recently
Mm, mm.
came from that.
Cool.
Um, and it's a yeah, I've always found that far more. If I have an end goal in mind,
Mm,
it's far easier rather than just going, right, I've got an hour of funny material, which I don't think I do.
mm.
um, so I'm just going to put that and make that my show.
Right.
Um, and I think that's the more traditional. I think a lot of shows are sort of moving away from that. I think the majority of the shows that I've seen, but then
Yeah,
maybe that's because that's what I'm looking for,
sure.
is much more this concept show,
Yeah,
sort of in the same vein as a concept album, I suppose.
yeah, yeah.
Sorry,
It's
I feel like that rambled a bit.
no, 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 no. I think it continues to be very interesting. And I think everybody's looking for their, what's right for them. It's funny because like if you caught me before I started stand up, I might have said, I mean, like 3 years ago, I might have said, oh yes, I want to do more like those concept shows. I guess what I feel like with myself now is I want to be talking about whatever I'm excited about right now. That's my kind of key. Like I don't want to be bringing up stuff that I've moved on from. Is the key thing for me. Yeah. No, and I think I think everybody's going to really enjoy this discussion of all of these things, which is we've spun on and I think from your origin story, we've already heard about the people who've had the biggest impact on your life and comedy. I guess we might just touch quickly on technology. I mean, I guess you're just doing I mean, it's you've got the notebooks. You're using pen and paper, which is a kind of technology. You record your sets and listen back to them afterwards. Is that
Yes, although I really hate doing it. I really hate, as surprising as this may seem to yourself and anyone that might listen to this, I really hate the sound of my own voice. Um,
well? It's shocking because I love the sound of my own voice so much. Anyone. I'm so enamored with my, and it's not that I think I've got a wonderful voice. I'm just like as I've said before, it's like I'm like a chimpanzee into the mirror, kind of like, oh, that's me. It's me talking. Oh, it's me. Oh, it's still me. It's still me. But what is
yeah,
it? What is it that you dislike about the sound of your own voice?
I um, I don't know. It's not something that I've really sort of looked into. It's more a I I'm hypercritical of myself.
Ah, okay.
Um, and so anytime that I listen, I can't just listen to a set and be thinking about what response it got, um,
Hmm.
because or the words that I've used because
Hmm.
I'm thinking you lingered too long on that word,
Hmm.
or you kind of messed up that delivery.
Hmm.
Um, and so, but yes, I sort of force myself to listen back to the sets
Okay.
and transcribe them.
Right. Yeah, I used to
Um,
do that. I used to do that. I used to transcribe them word for word and then put in where the different laughs and what level of laugh was being got. I
yeah,
went through a good sort of 12 months of doing that, but no more.
um, and it's an interesting way to work because there are some lines that essentially then I would learn it like a script,
Right.
like for a particular joke,
Yeah.
and then it just becomes ingrained
Yeah.
in the mind. Um, but there are some lines that just stick with me, and those tend to be the ones that do really really well. And I don't
Hmm.
have to listen to them again, and I don't have to
Right.
transcribe them because
You just know them.
I just know it because yeah, that's probably the best way that that joke can be told. And I'm quite sort of since I was young, I've been quite, I'd say, encyclopedic
Hmm.
about jokes. Um,
Hmm.
it was a game that I used to play a lot at school. Was if someone came up to me and gave me the setup line to a joke, I would finish it.
Okay.
Um, just because I absorbed every form of joke and I tried to see as much comedy as I could. So
Right.
most of the times, and also now, some of my friends will come to me and say, "I've written a joke. Can you make? Have you heard it before?"
Mm.
And some of the time, not all of the time, thankfully, I'll be able to say, "Yes, John Richardson has touched on that in a very
Okay.
similar way." Um,
Right.
so if you're going to do that topic or if you're going to talk about it, you need to find another angle. And I can tell you exactly which show that he did it in as well.
Yeah.
Um, so it's um, yeah. So uh, on that level of like transcribing technology, yeah, technology with how I work. A friend of mine does is a one-liner comic.
Hmm.
He uses PowerPoint quite a lot. He puts all of his individual jokes on a separate slide,
Mm.
and
Mm.
then so he has all of his jokes in one massive slideshow,
Right.
and he finds that really helpful to essentially be able to drag
Right. To reorder them and
to
move them
reorder them
around.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
to make a set. Um, yeah, for the first time though, I did last month. I did a work in progress of the show that I'm writing to take to Edinburgh,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and uh, yeah, it was 40 minutes long,
Hmm.
um, and it was a lot of fun to do. But that was recorded. I recorded it on my phone and with a camera as well,
Hmm.
and but I had a script on with me on stage, and I had written out everything, and it was actually really helpful because I had on my phone. So I use my notebooks for like more of my older stuff.
Yeah.
My phone is now my default
Yeah. Oh,
notebook,
right. Right. Fair enough. Yeah.
um, just because it's far simpler.
Yeah.
And I, in order to make, I didn't start writing the show from scratch. I was able to go into my phone and from 3 or 4 phones previous, I have all of
Hmm.
those notes in one um, document.
Right. Right.
Um, so of the from the past like 15 years or so. And I essentially went through to write this show. I went through the entirety of these notes, which came to about 16 pages A4
Hmm.
of bullet points,
Hmm.
um, and just started to separate them based on theme and topic.
Right.
And so at the end of that, I had one document which was just titled Religion.
Hmm.
And then I was like, right, I've got 4,000, I think it was like 4,000 words of
Hmm.
bullet pointed notes just on the topic of religion,
Yeah.
and then started to flesh it out and uh, and then got it into an order, which I thought would make narrative sense.
Hmm.
Also, something that I did, which I went on pilgrimage last year in October.
Okay.
I walked from Southwark Cathedral to Canterbury Cathedral,
Right.
which took a week. And I limited my technology as much as possible.
Right.
All I really had on me was a dictaphone.
Uh-huh.
And so as I was walking,
Mm.
I tried to basically speak this show into existence.
Wow.
Um, And I think it worked to an extent. I think there were definitely some ideas that I wouldn't have thought of if I hadn't been, walking for 6 hours a day,
Right.
and then, sporadically getting out my dictaphone and thinking, right,
Sure.
this would work well for the beginning of a show,
Mm.
and this would work well
Mm.
for the end of a show.
Right.
Um, so that was just what was going on in my head. So I just tried to do that. Um, and I would say that the funniest bits of the show didn't come from that, but the
Hmm.
most poignant bits
Sure.
did.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
bits where I was actually thinking about why people do this. Um, because I myself was raised Catholic, but I'm not particularly religious now.
Hmm.
But to sort of get myself in the mindset of, yeah, I'm doing a pilgrimage. Why would people do this?
Right.
What does religion mean to people?
Right.
Because
Right.
that's what I'm really concerned with.
Mm. Mm.
Um, because my material doesn't. Um, it's something that I start the show off with is basically talking about the fact that I've got no problem with offending God.
Mm-hmm.
What I don't want to do is offend people.
Hmm.
Um, and I think most people get offended when they feel like they're being personally attacked. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what I try not to do with my material.
Right.
Um, um, and I think if I may be so bold, I might say that that might be the thing that separates my material about religion from a lot of other comedians
Right.
is that I don't talk about how it's stupid or how people are
Sure.
stupid for believing,
Yeah.
and rather just treat religious figures as if they were real people,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and, and read. And I tried to read the Bible as if it were a historical text,
Yes.
because I find that far more interesting and far funnier to
Yes.
sort of go to, rather than read it and go, well, this is obviously a ridiculous thing to have happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is to read it and go, okay, but what would they actually have been thinking
Yeah. Yeah.
when this thing happened?
Sure.
Um, I find that more certainly more interesting.
Yeah.
Um, whether
Have
it's
you be-
funnier,
yeah.
don't
Have you been
know.
following Pete Holmes's podcast? You Made It Weird?
No, I haven't.
Because he grew up religious, and he asks comedians and other people about their religious persuasions, in a very respectful tone, and has, yeah, I think you'd really like his. I mean, he's
Mm,
he's also done like tours with a pastor where they do like a sort of discussion of religion and just also being funny and silly in the moment and so on. Yeah, I think you'd really enjoy his well, to promote another podcast on this podcast, but this podcast is at least partly inspired by Pete Holmes. Yeah, yeah, that sounds really interesting. I mean, and well, maybe we can use that to segue into our last couple of topics about the perception of reality and what does this all mean. It's like doing a pilgrimage like that's a kind of a way of denying yourself. It's a kind of taking your body to extremes. I don't know if drugs have ever been involved in, I mean, like you talked about, well, the ADHD medication, I mean, caffeine. I mean, I personally have given up caffeine and alcohol in order to try and find a chart a different course. But yeah, have drugs been a big part of how you've perceived the universe, or?
um, my my experience with drugs has not. I suppose the easiest way to say it is that I steer pretty clear from drugs myself.
Right.
Like actually taking drugs myself.
Although you say that with the assumption that drugs means illegal drugs.
Yes, yes, I do.
Okay, so
Um,
so you steer clear from illegal drugs.
yes, and but also over the counter drugs as well,
Right.
as far as I can, because I have quite an addictive personality.
Right. Yes,
Um,
I'm similar, and I stay away from both for the same reason. Yes. Go on.
and I mean, I have other reasons for that. My my degrees were, or at least like one of my dissertations was on uh, essentially in my studies, in my academic life, my specialty has been bioethics
Right.
and biblical ethics, um, and there's a lot of sort of having to do a lot of research on um, the effect that the sort of narcotics industry has
Mm.
on people has
Yeah.
sort of swayed me towards to the point where I am not anti-drugs in any way. I'm pro legalization,
Right.
um, uh, but I do think that the it's the criminal element that is the most dangerous thing,
Sure.
um, which is not what you asked uh, me at all.
No, but
Um,
that's no, it's a perfectly good answer. Yeah, when it's interesting. I mean, I think it. I'm so intrigued about the way in which drugs pejoratively becomes about illegal drugs, and you could talk about
yeah,
the criminal element. Are the people who are pushing alcohol and caffeine and ADHD medication, are they the criminal element as well? But then there's a bigger
yeah.
thing to go in there. I mean, I'm more interested, particularly after a 10-year theology degree, if you can fit into the next few minutes. What's your take on what does it all mean? What is the meaning of life, the universe, and everything?
Um, my This is something that I've been thinking about a lot, especially with the show that I'm writing.
Yeah.
Um, because I've been thinking a lot about how people interact with each other and how people interact with the world.
Mm.
And in particular, on a selfish point of view,
Yeah.
how is my show going to be received and how is it going to affect people?
Uh-huh.
And so my take, I very much use the example of um, everyone is free to swing their arms about as much as they like,
Right.
um, up until the point where it starts to hit someone else.
Mm.
Um, that's very much how I tend to view the world. I would like to, in a sort of Boy Scout way, leave the world better than how I found it,
Mm-hmm.
and try to limit the negative effects on myself, on other people, and the world as far as I
Sure.
know it. And I do think that that comes from my upbringing, and especially the Chris sort of that Christian idea of um, do unto others as you would have done to you.
Mm.
Um, my my personal view is I'm agnostic. I
Mm.
don't think it's possible to know.
Right.
I don't really know if I prefer the idea that there is a God, um, but it's something that I talk about in the show. Is that when I picture what happens when I'll die
Mm.
is heaven,
Oh,
and
really?
I can't get that. I can't really escape that fact that when I picture what happens next,
Mm.
I do think there's something deep down, and perhaps it's conditioning. I do see an afterlife,
Mm-hmm.
um, which is really bizarre because my sort of logical brain sort
Mm.
of says that seems very unlikely. Um,
Yeah, although as P. Holmes says, a life is pretty bizarre. Like this thing that we're
yeah.
in, an afterlife is no more bizarre than a life or a pre-life or any of these
Mm.
things. I mean, either which way, it's bizarre. I mean, I find myself, as particularly as I listen on P. Holmes to lots of different people talk, he always asks the question, what happens after, what do you think happens after we die? And I've had actually quite a few close people to me die recently, and which is always perturbing. And as I think about my own death, I'm intrigued about what happens next. You know,
Oh,
it's like
yeah.
what will it be? I mean, that's you know, separate the potential unpleasant end game that seems to be a huge roll of the die about what you, well, that's a pun not intended, a huge about what actually happens in the run up, which can be extremely unpleasant. But actually, what happens next, that's the big reveal, right? I mean, even if it's
Mm.
nothingness, I mean, which sounds like a great rest to me. But it's
Yeah, it's certainly it's such a thing is it's such a wide topic. And it's so I really don't think that humanity is really equipped to deal with this idea of nothingness.
mm,
Um, I think it's such a it, because it's so devoid or it's so outside of our experience. We've never experienced that apart from the point at which we didn't exist because we
mm,
hadn't been born yet.
mm,
But we can't even imagine what that's like
mm,
because it doesn't we have no frame of reference for it.
mm.
Um, it's a yeah, I find it really find it really freaky, to be completely honest. But it's a I suppose my view on the world is that I find what I suppose it's the same as my view of the Bible,
Hmm.
is that I find it far more interesting to read it as if it were true
Mm,
and to read it as if it were not that I believe it's true,
hmm.
but to read it and think, okay, well, what does this mean if that is true?
Hmm.
In the same way that people would read um, Harry Potter and really get bogged down in the details of
Yeah,
like, okay,
yeah,
well,
yeah,
if this is the case, then what do they do in these
yeah, yeah,
situations? In if there's flu powder and people can travel by fireplace, what happens if people get divorced? What happens
yes,
if one person like gets the house? Do they
yeah,
then have their own like
yeah, yeah,
fireplace? Do they have to change the fireplace?
yeah,
You know, it's those ideas. That's how I read the Bible. Of just going right. Well, let's just assume that it's true. What is this? Let's read out from the
yeah. Well, as I say,
scripture.
let's assume it was the Avengers of the day, right?
Yeah.
This is back in the day. I mean, I feel like maybe the people at the biblical times didn't think of it as true so much as these are the stories. This is the entertainment that we're having at the moment. I don't know, who knows what they thought, but yeah, yeah,
But it's
cool.
yeah, my view on the universe is that it's far more interesting to take the information that we have and take it as true. Um,
Mm,
and that so any person that I meet from all sorts of different backgrounds, I have friends who are witches. I have friends
mm,
um, who say that they're psychics.
right.
I have friends um, who are occultists and hold seances.
Mm,
And I find it so much more interesting and so much more fun to take them completely at face value. And
mm,
also, and also I have friends who are physicists
right, right.
and theologians and all these different things, and I
Yes,
take them completely at face value and
yes,
don't. And maybe that's naive of me, but I look at them and go, okay, tell me how you see the world.
yeah,
Okay, great. What if that's the case? What does this mean?
yeah,
How
yeah.
how do you explain these things?
Yeah, well, that I think Pete Holmes has made a career out of that, and we could use more people like that over here. So yeah, great stuff. Well, maybe after you've got your show, and maybe after I've seen it, we can have you back on for a deeper
Mm.
chat about this. We do need to wrap up, but would you like to promote your show or other things?
Yeah, it's a show. It's called Theologist. It is a very brief uh, sort of exploration of the Bible and also religion and how it affects people.
Mm,
Um, it does there are some autobiographical elements, Um, I suppose it's a. I feel like I run the risk of it being quite an entertaining TED talk.
Hmm.
Um, but uh, a friend of mine did come to see it and or the work in progress
Hmm.
and did say that was really good. It wasn't stand up though. Um, which you know what I'm sort of fine with
Yeah,
broadly.
because like who are the judges who are telling us what is and what isn't stand up or what is and
Yeah.
what isn't good? It's
So yeah, that's the show that I'm doing. I'm hoping to take it to Edinburgh. I whether or not I actually get a venue for that
mhm.
remains to be seen. But fingers crossed. And if not, then I'll be taking it next year.
Yeah,
Um,
cool.
uh, yeah, I think that's about it. That's all I'm really working on, really.
Excellent. Yeah, well, so and well, it's time to wrap up the show. We're going to leave. We do the new thing that we do is we leave the last word to the guest. So if you have any last words, sort of prepare those words. It could be your own personal catchphrase, could be just something you want to, scream into the void. Um, but yeah, after I say last word to the guest, it's your opportunity to say, a pithy ending to the podcast. But I'm going to say thanks to everyone for listening, and particularly to Oli Riordan for being on the show. Remember, you can help support comedians on technology, people, and drugs by going to patreon.com/comedians on, where any level of support will help us continue to produce the show. Please do follow us on Facebook, and we'll see you again real soon. Last word to the guest, Oli Riordan.
Blancmange.